and welcome back to another Petroglyphs in the Sky Phoenix Lights UFO show. How is everybody doing tonight? Glad you are here on this live presentation right here on our channel. Glad you guys are here. We have a lot of info and a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. So much to cover. There's so much. I think there's like 50 things to talk about, right? So it's going to be a long night, man. So strap into your easy chair, grab some munchies, grab your favorite drink, and let's get started. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Jeff Woolwine. I've been a Phoenix native for all my life, been born and raised, been seeing these UFOs in the sky ever since I was a kid. So these things, there's nothing new. I first started seeing these things, well, I started recording these things in 2004. I started seeing the lights, the Phoenix lights, on the east side of South Mountain, or excuse me, yeah, east side of South Mountain. I did a lot of news reports, and from there they were trying to tell us that we were seeing flares, and that was just crazy. My investigations led me to South Mountain in Phoenix, and these UFOs, these things in the skies, showed me where to go. I followed them to South Mountain, and in 2005 I moved to South Mountain to see if I can get some day shots and figure out what was going on. And in return, in watching all this stuff, I discovered the petroglyphs out there on South Mountain. And this is like in 2005, right? And so March 13th, 1997 was the big March 13th, you know, the Phoenix lights. And all the way up until like 2004, 2005, nobody was talking about Phoenix, Arizona's history, why these lights are visiting this mountain on a regular basis, why these lights, these UFOs were visiting Phoenix in general, what was the reason for it, and what was the true history, and what did the Native Americans say about these things, right? And no one even was thinking about these petroglyphs carved on the mountains around Phoenix. Well, I love archaeologists. I've been an amateur archaeologist way before professional ufologist. And so it's what led me into like this hunt and this quest and this journey to find out what was going on in my backyard. So in 2005, I moved to the mountain after they were telling us we're seeing flares. And these lights are right there next to South Mountain. And so I moved there, tried to figure out what was going on. And lo and behold, I did. I spent about 3.5 years there. And I watched these things come and go from South Mountain. And I would see one supposedly land out there, right? I saw it. I filmed it. I went out there the next day to investigate. And what did I find? I find a stone boulder with spirals and a stick figure man looking up at the exact same thing that I filmed the day before. Now, before all this, like in the beginning of the summer of 2004, I remember seeing a tour guide up there on South Mountain, and he's talking about the petroglyphs, right? And one of the people that was with him, he was like, you know what? This guy looks like he's looking up, this stick figure man, this carving of a stick figure man on this boulder, looks like he's looking up at something in the sky. And Dave Morris, a Native American from the Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix, he works at the Indian Museum there. He's doing the tour on South Mountain. He turns around and he says, yes, that's part of the interpretations here, is that our ancestors saw and recorded things in the sky. Oh, what? Can you repeat that for me, please? What? Okay, so we have strange markings on the rocks, right? We have strange lights in the sky. There has to be a connection. So in 2005, after they're telling us we're seeing flares, I contacted, after I was going out there, right? And I'm seeing these things go out there on South Mountain. I go out there and I find these spirals and the same thing that I filmed in the sky the day before. I got a hold of Dave and I said, hey, dude, I saw you on Channel 8 last year. You're talking about the petroglyphs. Didn't really tell him what I was doing, who I was. But I told him that, I'm interested in the petroglyphs. I was kind of doing a little documentary. I wish I was hoping maybe I could film you explaining to me about these petroglyphs. He was like, sure, yeah. We met him up there on South Mountain in 2005, and we talked about the spirals. We talked about the lizard people. We talked about all this kinds of crazy stuff, right? And see, at that time, I'm going with everybody with what everybody else is talking about: spaceships, little green guys from Mars, and this huge craft going over the city of Phoenix, March 13th, 1997. Oh, by the way, I was there that night, and I can honestly tell you that I didn't see anything go over the city of Phoenix that night. We'll probably get into that later. Those of you who've been following me all these years and watching my shows know my subject and thoughts on that subject. But I was like, yeah, so he was talking about all this crazy stuff, and he's talking about these spirals, correct? And he goes, so these spirals are symbols of emergence points it's a doorway into the underworld. He says that's where these spirits come and go from. He goes, that spiral more than likely will end in a crack of the stone, in the crack of a boulder, right? We have these spirals and they end in the crack in the boulder. He says that crack is the doorway to the underworld. This is a credible, a shaman, Native American, teaching me the petroglyphs. And he's talking about spirals, doorways into the underworld on South Mountain in Phoenix. And I'm thinking to myself at that time, how can a huge spaceship technology craft, right? Because that's what everybody's thinking. That's what everybody was being told all these many years is these lights in the sky, these UFOs are spaceships, are crafts, right? So I'm thinking to myself, how can a spaceship get into that little crack? Hey, I'm here to learn, man. I have an open mind. I'm here to learn. I want to know what's up. He says a spiral's going in a clockwise position is a doorway in. A spiral going in a counterclockwise is a doorway out. He says a spiral ends, and when the spiral ends up, he says there's a vortex in the sky. There's a doorway in the sky. A vortex? He's like, yeah, a vortex. That's what he said, a vortex. He goes, that's what that spiral represents, because you're looking down into a tunnel. You're looking down into a hole. That's what that spiral is talking about. He goes into like some of these petroglyph meanings, like some of these petroglyphs, these stick figure men has these tails, supposed tails, and he's calling these things lizard people, right? Talking about giants. Matter of fact, one of the folklore legends here in Phoenix from the Native American perspective, when it comes to the Superstition Mountains out there on the east side of Phoenix, a lot of people are like, oh, the Lost Dutchman's gold, right? They're all looking for the Lost Dutchman's gold. That's the story on the Superstition Mountains. But to a Native American understanding of that mountain, that goes way deeper, way deeper than a German guy finding gold, dying, and then not telling anybody where the gold is. He pointed towards the Superstition Mountains, and he says, there were giants here that walked this land. He says, when the flood was coming, the giants didn't want to drown. You know, the big flood. We all heard about this flood, right? The big flood. So the lead giant told his people to come up on this huge boulder. And he used his powers to raise this boulder up. The water kept coming. He used his powers again to raise this boulder up. The water kept coming. He had raised this boulder so high now, it's about as big as the mountain. It's huge, with his giant people still on top. But the water is keeping coming. It's still going. The water is still coming. And in his last bit of strength, because he didn't want his people to drown, he immortalized them all by turning them to stone. And when he did, that's when the water stopped. And to this day, you can look upon the Superstition Mountains, and you can look at that water line. You can still see that water line from the Great Flood, right? You can still see it. And you can still see those giants turned to stone on top of the ridge. They're still there. It's incredible. When you examine the evidence, you can see those giants all up there on Superstition Mountains. And then there's even some giants on the bottom of Superstition Mountains. A lot of people don't know that, but there is. There's giants that have been turned to stone right there at the ridge of the Superstition. And then on the left side, on the north side of the Superstition on the bottom, there's a guy in like a monk outfit, I guess you would say, like a robe, right? And he's kind of kneeling down and he's kind of praying. Matter of fact, the Camelback Mountain, there's a giant up there on that mountain that has been turned to stone. A lot of people call that Mummy Mountain. I'm like, wow, man, this is great. This is great stuff. We spent about 3 hours up there talking about all kinds of stuff, man, right? And at the time, I'm like, wow, this is heavy. You know, this is some good stuff, right? I don't understand it all. Spirals, giants, lizard people. And let's talk about the lizard people real quick. So he says, when the Hohokam Indians first arrived here in Phoenix. Now, Hohokams were the first Native Americans who lived here in the Valley of the Sun. And the story goes, when they first arrived here, they didn't know how to live. They didn't know how to survive. Now, it wasn't a dried up landscape at that time. It was a tropical-like landscape. It wasn't all deserty. Over 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, it wasn't a desert at all. It was a tropical-like landscape, and you can see the evidence, man. There's tons of waterfalls, dried up waterfalls all over South Mountain and all over the mountains around Phoenix. All the canals and plenty of evidence of water here. He says, when the Hohokams first arrived here, they didn't know how to live. So the lizard people came up out of the sand world, down from the heavens. They lost their tails, looked like everyone else. And they taught these people how to survive. They also taught them some things that they weren't meant to know about. They taught them the secret incantations. They taught them the secret ways of knowledge that man was not meant to know. To be honest with you, we're not really supposed to know about these UFOs in the sky from a certain point of Native American understanding, and we'll get into this in a minute here, the reasons why. And for 1,000 years, right, they learned from these things, from these beings. And, I mean, look at the Hopis, right? The Hopis learned how to weave their baskets by watching Spider-Woman in the sky weave her web in the sky. Those of you who have been following me all these years know that I filmed that Spider-Woman fly by my window. That's just one example, right? So they taught these people how to build canals, and you know, they were the masters of the canal system in their day. They were the best canal builders. The archaeologists said that they never went to war with anybody, that they were a peace-loving people. They lived here in the Valley of the Sun for well over 1,000 years. And then all of a sudden, right, all of a sudden they disappeared. Now, Hohokam is a Pima word for people who are gone, people who are missing, people who got taken away. The Pimas consider themselves ancestors to the Hohokam. The Tohono tribe also considers themselves ancestors to the Hohokam. And I really think that the Tohono tribe is more in relations than the Pimas. But that's the story. So they lived here for 1,000 years. Everything was groovy. Oh, and by the way, yes, I mean, they saw these lights in the sky. I mean, it's exactly the stuff that we find out there in Mexico when it comes to the pyramids, when it comes to the sacrificing, all that stuff. I mean, why not? I mean, when you really look at history, Arizona was part of Mexico back in the day. So not only were the Hohokams here, but also the Mayans. I found tons of Mayan rock art out there. We're going to talk about that here. And we're going to talk about some possible pyramids that have been buried around the mountains of Phoenix. So they were here for 1,000 years. Everything was fine and gravy, and then they were doing sacrificing. They were sacrificing for their gods, I guess you want to call them, for these things in the sky. I found so many altars out there oriented towards the east, oriented towards the east side for the morning sunrise, especially during the equinox and the solstice. We'll get into that a little bit later on the reason what the purpose on that is all about. But everything was all fine and gravy for 1,000 years. They were sacrificing not only their enemies, but children, things like that. It was some serious stuff that was going on here in this desert, in this, well, now desert, in this Valley of the Sun. Until one day, the sacrificing stopped. And nobody really understands why the sacrificing stopped. But when it did, that's when the crap really hit the fan. Once they stopped sacrificing to these gods, to these phoenix lights, to these things in the sky, not only sky, but the earth and sky, these spirits of the earth and sky, that's when everything turned to hell. That's when stuff started to dry up. That's when the water stopped coming. Everything was drying up. And the people turned to their leaders and they're like, why did you stop the sacrifice? The gods are mad. The gods are angry. Look at what's going on to our town here. Look what's going on. The water is dried up. Everything is dying. Why did you stop the sacrifice? And then one day, some say the devil came from the east, came down and took these people away. They took the Hohokams away. This is the old tradition. This is what the Native Americans say, what happened to the Hohokam people. Is that they were taken away by these spirits of the earth and sky. There were some that survived this Holocaust. They were afraid. They ran in the caves. They were smart, man. They saw what was going on. They saw these lights coming down. They saw these diamonds and all these orbs and all these crazy things in the sky, all their gods coming down and picking people up. And they had this line coming out of them, and it's picking people up by their heads and taking them off into the sky. And they were terrified, man. They ran into these caves. And when it was all over with, the tribal leaders, some that survived this, that hid in the caves along with these other people, right? They were standing there and they knew that it was wrong to stop the sacrifice. And so they ended up committing suicide. The journals say, the writings say that They took out their own hearts on the sacrificing tables. Now, the remainder of the people, the remainder of the Hoax, the remainder of the Mayans who were here, they cursed this valley. They were like, dude, did you see what the hell went on right now? Did you guys see that? Are we going to live here now? Are we going to stay here anymore? Hell no. It's time to get the hell out of Dodge. And that's what they did. And they had tons of gold. And the story goes on to say that the pile of gold was as tall as the highest saguaro cactus and as round as the sun. There was so much gold here. They buried it, man. They buried it in South Mountain, in caves and tombs. And they left. They went back to Mexico. And they vowed never to return here. They knew that if they were going to continue to live in this valley, that eventually they would have to go back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So they got the heck out of Dodge, man. They were gone. They cursed this valley. This was a cursed land. Nobody was living here. Over the many, many, many years, there were tribes on the outskirts of this valley, and they saw the lights. They saw the Quetzalcoatl flying serpents. They saw these orbs. They saw these things, and they were afraid, man. They're like, dude, you remember what happened to our ancestors? When we interacted with these beings, these lights? You remember what happened? Remember what happened to your great-great-great-great-grandfather? That's what these petroglyphs are out there, because they're telling us a story. They're telling us what happened here. They're telling us the real history of Phoenix, Arizona. And nobody lived here for hundreds of years. Even when you and I move, we take our belongings with us. But yet the Hoax didn't. They left all of their stuff and simply disappeared. Now, this wasn't the only tribe on earth that disappeared at the same time. Many tribes around the world disappeared at the exact same time when the Hoax did. Right? Look at the history. Look at the evidence. We have these master race of people who are masters of their race, masters of their land. They were conquerors. They were kings, man, for like 1,000 years, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. And none of them had contact with each other, right? There's no internet, no phone, no radios, right? They didn't know. But they're building pyramids, man. They knew what was up. What are these pyramids? Where did they get these pyramid ideas? From the sky. They saw the symbols in the sky of these pyramids. And where did they erect these pyramids at? On fault lines, on energy lines, on ley lines. They put these energy sources, pyramids, on these sources, on these places where these UFOs would visit. That's the explanation on these pyramids and what's up with that. So, and then what? About a few hundred years later, that's when Jack Spelling came over the White Tank Mountains, and he looked down at the farmland left over from the Hoax, and he's like, dude, what a great place to start a city, to start farming. He saw the Hoax canal systems, and he saw the Hoax structures and hogans and stuff, and he's like, why do these people leave, man? I mean, this is perfect. Look at this. I mean, even today, the city of Phoenix still uses most of these canal systems that the Hoax built thousands of years ago, at least over 1,000 years ago. These canals are still being used. They're a little bit deeper. They have more concrete in them now, right? A little bit more advanced, but it's the same grid. And it's funny too, because as archaeologists, I've dealt with this guy so many times. I was on the news with this guy. I don't think a ufologist has ever brought out a city archaeologist talking about UFOs and the petroglyphs connections. You know, I don't think anyone's ever done that before, but I did, man. I got that sucker on the news. And of course, you know, he's blowing smoke up everybody's butt. You know, all these symbols are for the sky, for the sun, and this and that. You know, and he's like, I remember drawing and seeing this petroglyph, and this lizard comes up and sits by the rock, and I'm like, oh my God. That must have been what the Hoax saw with this lizard sitting on a rock. So they're going to go carve a lizard man. Can you believe it, right? And they, and what about Phoenix, right? Phoenix, the fiery bird that rose out from the ashes of the former civilization. But they're not telling you about this former civilization. They want you to believe that the Hoax people was a simple, peace-loving people that never went to war with anybody and everything was cool, and they left simply because of drought. Okay, I'm open to that. Where did they go? Sure, they left. They were here for 1,000 years. This was their land. It got too hot, so they left. All right, where'd they go? There's no evidence of any place on where they went. Man, they're just gone, dude. They're gone. But they want us to believe that they, you know, took off. And, oh, by the way, they left all their stuff behind. They left their pots, they left their clothing, they left their weapons, they left everything there, right? And they left, right? We don't need that stuff no more. We're hitting the highway. And that's been the story for at least 100 years, I guess. Give or take. That's the story of what happened to these people. But the oral tradition from these Native Americans who actually talk about this, because they know. Some will talk about this situation on what these lights are. And then some have no idea and just start talking and they can't even back up anything. And then there's some that won't talk. Why won't they talk about this? This happened to me when I was talking to Dave, the shaman, the Native American, when he was teaching me the petroglyphs. I didn't tell him what I was doing. I didn't tell him who I was. I didn't tell him, you know, what I was doing, what I had, what my theory was working on, what I was doing. I just told him that I wanted him. I saw you on TV. I want you to teach me the petroglyphs. I'm making a documentary. Can I film you? Sure. I didn't tell him until after we got down off the mountain. We're in the parking lot. And I said, you remember, have you ever heard of the Phoenix Lights? And he goes, oh yeah, sure. He goes, last year there was somebody on the news talking about these things. And I was like, dude, that was me. He goes, that was you? I said, yeah. I said, I was filming these lights out there, man. I did like 4 or 5 news reports. I even got the military involved. I got the A-10s, you know, to drop flares out to see if they were going to resemble what I was seeing, what everybody else was seeing and recording from Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, 150 miles away. I did that, dude. That was me. That got all that shit going. He goes, dude, that was you? I goes, yeah, man. I was like, I have this theory I'm working on. I have this theory that these petroglyphs have some kind of connection with these lights in the sky. No one's ever thought about this before. And he turned around and he looked at me. And that was it. That was it. He did not want to talk to me anymore. He still won't talk to me. It's a good thing I didn't tell him what I was doing, because he would have never told me about these petroglyphs. He would have never brought me up on that mountain. Why? Why doesn't he want to talk about this? Because the oral tradition, his grandparents, his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents was telling them all these years what happened to their people. That these lights in the sky took their people away. That this is some kind of taboo. And now someone else is seeing this and making the connection with these petroglyphs. I don't believe anybody's ever done that before. It's always been a theory. Oh, we think the Native Americans were seeing UFOs in the sky and carved them on the rocks. But no one has ever proved it. I did. I proved it. These things that were coming and going from South Mountain, I matched it on the rocks out there. I don't think anybody's ever done that before. As soon as like I was watching these things coming and going, right? Because by then in 2004 I've already made like 4 or 5 news reports, so the media knew me, right? So I went to the mountain in 2005. I moved to the mountain on the east side, about a mile away, and then I started seeing them in the daytime. They're going down there on South Mountain, and I go out there, and I discover these petroglyphs of the exact same thing that I filmed the day before, and I buy the city archaeologist Todd Boswick's book on the petroglyphs, and I take my video footage to the news, and I bring Todd Boswick's, the city archaeologist book, the petroglyphs that he drew. He didn't take any photographs of them. Why? Because he's covering up stuff. Okay, he's not taking photographs of petroglyphs. He's drawing them in his book. He's putting in his book what he wants you to see, not what's really there. For instance, there's a petroglyph out there with a guy with a long head that we find in Peru, a long elongated head. Okay, he's looking up at a barbell UFO. But in Todd Boswick's book, the city archaeologist's book, he draws that a regular head. That's clearly not what's carved there. So he's misleading the people. Also, he's saying that petroglyphs are right here when I went to that area and they're not there. They're about a mile away, right? They're about almost a mile away anyway from the mountain and where he says it. It's just a bunch of, baloney. And so when I take that book and I take my footage to the news, oh my God, that just blew up in a whole new case of worms on the Phoenix Lights now, you guys. Oh my God, there's actually some guy out there filming these UFOs, connecting them to the petroglyphs. And that's when the city archaeologist saw me on the news. That's what he wanted to get his 2 cents in, right? And so all this time I'm doing this, I'm making this book, right? I'm gathering all my evidence. I spent 3 years out there. I hiked that mountain from one end to the other, from both sides, from north to south, to east to west, you name it. I was there for many, many years. And years after that, I've been on that mountain. I've taken photographs. I've documented everything. And I'm making my case, dude. And I'm like, dude, look at all this. I'm going into this thinking, wow, UFOs, this is cool, they're here to help us, blah, blah. And once I start realizing, once all the history starts coming into play, all this evidence, because they want you to stay on the trails, okay? And they make South Mountain a government park, so you go over there and start digging stuff up, you're going to go to jail for 20, 30 years and never be seen again. I mean, why make South Mountain a government park? Why not pick on a mountain? Why not pick on the White Tank Mountains? Why not pick on Camelback Mountain? Why not make all these other mountains government parks? Why South Mountain? It's because there's stuff buried there on South Mountain. There's tons of gold buried on South Mountain. I found the tombs. I found a lot of evidence that there's something there. The altars, and yes, even evidence of giants I have found. Yes, I'm talking about giants, man. Somebody big, somebody huge was picking these big boulders up and stacking them up like a wall. We're going to talk about this. I'm going to show you photographs. Don't worry. We have a long night ahead. So I can't really talk too much about this. But I start to talk about this because it's so interesting. It's so cool. There's so much information. It's like 20 years of research into this, man. And you can find it right here on my book. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. The Covered Up History of Phoenix, Arizona. This goes into everything. This is all the raw stuff. Okay, so there's like 3 books out there. One is a hard copy book that you guys can buy, and that's the edited version, and that's just a story. And then there's these 2 other books, the Covered Up History of Phoenix, Arizona, Volume 1, Volume 2. That's everything, because this book is huge, right? When I wrote this, it's huge. And so it took me about 15 years to get this book together, 15 years of research, and then about another 5 years to find a publisher to get it published. And that was hard to do. I had so many people ripping me off, taking my stuff, and not talking to me anymore, blocking me. I mean, it was a mess. It was horrible trying to get my book out. Because I've never written a book before. I don't know what I'm doing, right? But I'm finding all this stuff, and I got to put it in something. I got to write this book, man. I'm finding all this stuff, and I even went down to the Phoenix Library, okay? Because like for a year, okay. Oh, you can find this book on Amazon Kindle. Just search my name, Jeff Woolwine, on Amazon Kindle. You'll see these books. Only $3. You can't beat it. To find out what's really here. So, like that first year, I'm watching these things in 2005. The news is picking me up. All right, I'm doing incredible stuff, and I'm working with a high 8 video camera. All right, so. This is 2005, all right? And plus, I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money. I bought what I could afford. So I bought this Handycam high 8 video camera to film all my UFOs, to film the petroglyphs, to do my research with. And so every time I would make the news in Phoenix, they would want to see my original tapes to make sure I'm not hoaxing this stuff. And the first time they wanted my tapes, I'm thinking conspiracy. I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to take my tapes and I'll never see them again, right? So I had them draw out a contract that they have my UFO tapes for such and such a period, to air on such and such a date on such and such a channel, right? So I was nervous. I was like, dude, this is gold, right? Okay, this is something, and you guys want to take it and analyze it. That's all fine, but you're doing a contract, dude. Because if anything comes up missing, I'm coming after you, brother. So I did. I had News Channel 3 write up a contract. The first couple times, and so they analyzed my stuff to make sure I'm not hoaxing it, make sure I'm not CGI in this stuff, computer generated images, make sure everything's good. And when they find out that I'm not hoaxing it. I even had Scott Davis, News Channel 3 producer, show up at my apartment unexpectedly. I didn't even have a computer in my apartment. All right, I didn't even own a computer at that time. I was poor, right? And so he just unannouncedly just showed up at my apartment just to see if I had a computer, just to see, Nope, he saw me in my kitchen with my tripod and my chair, looking out that window on the 2nd floor, watching South Mountain. I'm not hoaxing this stuff, man. This stuff is real, right? So a year goes on, right? And I do an article for UFO Magazine, Bill Burns and Pat Uskert. And I'm doing radio shows. I'm doing news reports, blah, blah. And so Pat Uskert has this idea. So I'm doing this stuff way before Ancient Aliens, way before the UFO Hunter Show, way before all these other shows are even thought of. I'm out there on South Mountain documenting my case, connecting these petroglyphs to these UFOs in the sky. And so word breaks out that someone's out here in Phoenix doing all this research. And so Pat Uskert has an idea of making this show where he wants to go around and film people filming UFOs and talk to them and do an interview. And he wants to call it the UFO Hunter Show. So he gets a hold of me and we talk, and I ended up doing the pilot for the UFO Hunter Show and the Ancient Aliens TV series. I took him up there on South Mountain. I showed him the petroglyphs. I gave him my stuff. I wrote an article, 2005, 2006. And in 2007, when the UFO Hunter Show finally aired, then they came back. And so this is a few years, right, go by. And I'm finding more and more evidence. I'm finding more stuff to prove my case here. In between that time, I even went to the Phoenix Library. And I went up to the government department. And I asked them, give me everything on South Mountain. You know, because I'm finding all this stuff. I'm finding tombs. I'm finding evidence of giants. I'm finding altars. I'm finding a lot of stuff that the archaeologist is not talking about in his book. And so I'm like, well, okay, what is up with this? I mean, I can spot something man-made a mile away, dude. All right? I've been doing this way before. I'm an amateur archaeologist way before, and I can spot this stuff, dude. So what is it going on here? What is the deal here? Why can't I find anybody else to back up what I discovered out here? Because there has to be somebody out here that knows what I'm doing, man. You know, that knows what's here. Because if I can see it, anybody else can see it. That's why they want you to stay on the trails. That's why they made it a government park. So I went to the library, and I said, give me everything you have on South Mountain. I had to give them my ID, my license. Because this is touchy stuff, man. This is government stuff, man. You got to show your ID. Got to hang on to that ID so you can look at this folder. And when I did, I opened it up. Holy shit, man, that stuff hit me in the face, man. What was there? What was staring back at me? The first park ranger, Charles Holbrook. The very first park ranger of South Mountain, Charles Holbrook, from 1930s up until the late 1940s. And what was he talking about? He was talking about how the Mayans were here. He was talking about the gold. He was talking about all this stuff that I discovered out there on South Mountain a year and a half before. It all backed up everything that I was finding. I knew it. I knew I was right, dude. That was it, because it's there. I brought all this stuff down from the mountain. I'm bringing it to the public. Look what's here. Now I have more, right? I have more evidence, right? The park ranger is backing me up on this. And he's got this journal. It's in this book. It's in my book. Pick up my book. You can see it for yourself. Everything is photocopied. I copied all that information, dude, right? And this folder was buried for 80 years in this library. No one has looked at this feral folder. Nobody's talked about this folder. Probably the only person who has is the city archaeologist and the people before him, you know, but it's away from the public eye. And it's talking about the gold. It's talking about the sacrificing. It's talking about the spirits of the earth and sky, people. It says that. Look it up. It's in there. It's in my book. Check it out. It's only $3. Can't beat it. It's there. I knew it. I just knew it because I'm finding it, you know? And now I got the park ranger backing me up, the very first one. And how did he learn all this stuff? Because when he was a ranger, the Native Americans, they trusted him. They trusted Charles Holbrook. And they told him all the secret ways, all the tombs. He was there to protect the tombs. He writes in his journal about the Native Americans talking to him about the gold in the tombs and being as tall as the tallest cactus and round as the sun, and how everybody took off, you know, because they got taken away. And that's what the petroglyphs are depicting. The petroglyphs are showing these flying serpents, these orbs, these lights, these things in the sky that we see today coming down and picking people up by their heads and taking them off into the sky. There's a major conspiracy here, a major cover-up in the city of Phoenix. I have discovered this. I have exposed this. I have brought this out. I am not saying anything that hasn't been said before. This information has been buried for 80 years now. I'm bringing this back to the public. I have crossed my T's. I have dotted my I's. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. I can prove everything that I say. I made sure that before I went public. Before I went, started doing cable shows. Before I started doing the news. Before I did radio shows. I made sure that there was no loopholes. I made sure that what I'm talking about, I can back up and I can prove it. And that's what I'm doing here. And that's why we're here talking with you today. I'm trying to get everyone interested in this and understanding what these Phoenix lights are. What the true history of Phoenix is. So, you know, I'm watching them, and as I'm watching them all these years, and I'm filming them, and they're coming up to my window. They know I'm there. They wanted me to go to the mountain. These lights showed me the way. I followed these lights to South Mountain. I don't know how many times I got to say that, man. These videos prove it. All the way back to my first video of these Phoenix lights. When I'm sitting in Mesa and I'm watching these lights, where are they going? They're popping up in front of me a few miles out. They're moving towards South Mountain. They're going to the mountain. So I followed them to the mountain. Probably the way the Hoax did. Probably the way the Mayans did. The Mayans followed these lights to this mountain, to this sacred mountain. This mountain used to be called Mount Zapoa, Mountain of Mercy. Now it's called South Mountain. All the tribes from all over the nations used to come to this mountain and watch these things in the sky. There was a lot of trading going on. There's Charles Holbrook writes in his journals, a handful of gold for a handful of corn. Stuff like that. Look it up. It's in my book. It's right there. Pick it up. $3. Cheap. Cheap, man. Compared to what I went through. I broke my knees going up on that mountain. But here's this book, man. 20 years, man. That's it. Everything. And so I'm watching them, and I'm soon learning. It didn't take me long to understand that this is something different. This is not technology. Spaceships and little green men from Alpha Centauri, that's all fine and gravy. I'm open to that. Matter of fact, in my years, I have seen some things in the sky that could resemble a spaceship, that could resemble a craft. I have seen black triangles. I have seen things that could resemble a craft. Don't get me wrong. I think that's all well and fine and gravy. But I think what the majority of the people are seeing is something completely different. These things are alive. These things are living beings. These things are living entities. You see 5 lights out there? You're looking at 5 living entities, 5 living beings. And what does the Native Americans say about these things? Oh, they shapeshift. They change shape, right? That's what the petroglyphs are calling them. That's what the petroglyphs are talking about. And the archaeologist likes to call these changing, shape-shifting petroglyphs anthropomorphs. Anthropomorphs. They talk about anthropomorphs. They're changing shape. And that's what these things are doing, man. They're changing shape. They're changing colors. They're alive. This is not technology. They're conscious. They know who's watching. They know who's not. That's how they've been getting away with being in our skies for all these years. I'll give you another secret. They're not from another planet. This is their world also. They've always been here. That's what the Native Americans have been telling us. They go up on the mountains and they talk to the spirits. We just think it's all myths and legends and stuff. But what if it's real? What if it's literal? What if they actually are going up there and they're talking to these lights in the sky? They're talking to these beings. And it's crazy too because these petroglyphs, like some of these petroglyphs, there's like we're going to talk about like this lizard man, okay? And so there's a circle in its belly, okay? And it's like a circle, okay, in his stomach, okay? And so Dave, the shaman, the Native American, he was trying to say, well, that circle is him halfway in our world and halfway into the underworld. But over the years, I'm watching these things. I'm seeing these orbs, these circle orbs morph, change. They grew. They grew right before my eyes, right there on camera. This orb changed shape into the likeness of a man, into the likeness of a snake, into Quetzalcoatl. I can tell you Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpent, is alive and well and flying around Phoenix, Arizona. I have filmed him many a times. And he's a trip, man. He's like a dragon. I was watching South Mountain one morning in this canyon. Watching this canyon. And a red and black flying snake came out of that. That made the news, man. That made the news. It came right up climbed about 1,000 feet, came right over my apartment. Those of you who've been following me know you have seen that video. It's right there, right above me, and it's changing shape. That thing's alive. Is this technology? No. This thing's alive, man. They knew I was there filming them. It got so crazy. Like sometimes I'd be watching this one orb in the sky, and this another orb would fly in and say, look at me, like, you know, because I'm not paying attention to them. It was so bad. It was crazy. And somebody else is watching these things too. It's in my book. Black helicopters, white airplanes, that stuff's real. Yeah. You know, when I was watching them in 2004, I was watching these Phoenix lights in 2004. After I made the news, these little white airplanes was up there in the sky. And these lights would appear right over a power plant. There's a power plant on the east side of South Mountain. It's bored down into the fault line. And this power plant was active in the summer of 2004. These lights were hanging right over that power plant. These airplanes were there. Lights would come in. Airplanes were coming in after them. And at first I was like, oh, that's cool. Somebody else is watching these lights too. But the more and more I was watching what was going on, they're not there to investigate them. They're there to get them out of the area. They were there to shoo them away like flies. These lights would show up over that power plant. These white airplanes would come in, zoom in after them. As soon as I got within a mile radius of these lights, the lights would disappear. Airplanes would come in and circle that area. As soon as the lights disappeared, as soon as the airplanes were done circling right there, the airplanes would go back up a couple of 1,000 feet up and wait for the lights. Well, here comes the lights again. It was a cat and mouse game the whole night, the whole summer of 2004, with these white airplanes and these Phoenix lights. Now, when I moved to South Mountain, I'm starting to film them during the day, and I'm making the news, and now I'm doing articles for UFO Magazine, and now I'm doing the UFO Hunter Show, and I'm doing all this other stuff. That just brought attention to these not only white airplanes, but now black helicopters. And yes, I filmed it all. I documented it all. There's still photographs in my book. $3. Check it out. It's in there. Photographs of these black helicopters. Yeah, they know what's here. They know what's going on. And so when I was doing the UFO Hunter Show, like 2 years later, after oh my God, like 2 years now, I nailed it. I know it's here. I know the history. And I'm telling everybody, look, crafts and spaceships and technology is fine. This is different, okay? This is something different. They're like, but Jeff, you can't say that. They said, you're filming some bizarre stuff. The people aren't ready for this. This is in 2007. And I'm thinking to myself, damn it, the people better get ready for this because that's what's here. And I don't know why they didn't want me to reveal my knowledge, on my take on. I mean, they obviously want to use me to, talk about the Phoenix lights and talk about, the petroglyphs and the meanings and interpretations and what it's all about and the connection to the Phoenix lights. But they didn't want me to actually explain it all, that these are not crafts and no V-shaped spaceship went over the city of Phoenix that night because there's no evidence of that, and no, green men and whatever. They said, dude, if you're going to talk about this, don't say spirits, don't go say fallen angels, don't go say any of this stuff. Nephilim, any of that stuff. You have to say crafts. And I just didn't understand why. And maybe because they didn't want me to, I just think they didn't want to give credit to me, give me credit on discovering this major discovery. Because now, later, because everybody now is seeing them, like 5-10 years later, people are emailing me, dude, I saw that serpent. I saw that flying diamond. I saw this thing change into a likeness of a man. I'm seeing these crazy weird shapes in the sky. And all these like so-called ufologists and Ancient Aliens TV series and all this stuff, right? They're basically using my work, man. They're not giving me credit on my discoveries, stuff that I was doing way before those shows was even a thought. I was out there doing this way before they were on the air, way before it was on the Hollywood producer's desk. It was me that started all that stuff. And now they're using my stuff, my information for their shows, and they're not giving me any credit for it. And there's so many cable shows out there that want to use my stuff, but don't want to use me. And that's just, I mean, blah, 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 blah. So it's crazy. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff. I don't know why, but I like to babble about this thing because it's so, I mean, there's so much information here. I mean, my stuff is credible. My stuff has been analyzed. I mean, I've been all over the world, talking about these, not all over the world, but I've had people send me stuff all over the world. So they know who I am. They know what I'm doing. And, I'm a credible ufologist. And what do I tell people? Okay, if you're going to be a sky watcher, okay, a serious one, if you want to go out and look for UFOs and film them, you first want to make sure what normal things are in the sky. You must film airplanes. You must film balloons. You must film flares. You must film trash. You must film flares, whatever it is. All this stuff in the sky, you must recognize the normal stuff before you can go on to say this is not normal. So you can recognize what you're looking at. Why do I say this? It's because I've made a lot of mistakes before. Okay? I have taken stuff and I thought that it was a real UFO, and I emailed it to Nancy Burns, UFO magazine. And this is when things were hot. Everybody was, looking at my stuff, and everything was going. I mean, it was great. I was on top back then, right? About 2006, 7, I guess, 8 maybe. I don't know. And so I made the mistake, and I found this photograph, and it's this webcam over city of Phoenix, okay? And I didn't film it. I saw it on a webcam, and it looked like a spaceship going over Phoenix. Well, I did a stupid thing. I put mothership on it, Phoenix, Arizona. I sent it to Nancy Burns. And unfortunately, they posted that on their website. And without analyzing it first, and this and that. And they just, well, that bit me in the ass, okay? Because it wasn't a spaceship. It wasn't a UFO. It was a plane. And it was stop motion photography or whatever, you know what I mean? And so everybody came down on UFO magazine and they were like, dude, why did you post this airplane, blah, blah. And it's funny too, because I see all these other stuff now, these people filming these airplanes and people are believing them and they're not criticizing them the way they're criticizing me. That hurt me big time. After that, I had Coast to Coast, George Norrie listening to me one day, and Pat Oscar goes, well, you're going to be on this radio show over here, and Coast to Coast is going to be listening to you. And so that picture of that mothership, if they ask you about it, you need to say that was just a private picture. It wasn't supposed to go viral, and that was a mistake. Well, I'm still new at all this. I'm still doing interviews, and I want to be honest as possible, and I don't want to lie to anybody. And the interview's gone great, and then all of a sudden they sprung that on me, and they asked, well, where'd that picture come from, and who posted that picture? And being honest and not thinking, because I'm a truthful guy, I said Nancy Burns posted that picture I threw her under the bus on accident. I didn't mean to. And that hurt me. That hurt my credibility big time. From then, their cable shows didn't want to talk to me no more. I mean, that just blew my chance on Coast to Coast, all this other crap, it killed everything. So that's why I'm so hard on some people, and I don't mean to be. I'm trying to teach you my mistakes, because I've been there, all right? And I don't want you to go down that route. I want you to be credible. I want you to understand what a balloon is. I want you to understand what an airplane is. I don't want you to make the mistake and fool people and fool yourself or make people think that you're really filming balloons when you're filming airplanes, And I get a lot of that now, and we're going to talk about that. Hopefully we got time. I don't know. Man, this is going on. I got so much to talk about. And so that's why I'm so hard on people. And I don't mean to be. I'm just trying to explain to you, look, okay, I know it looks like a UFO. It looks like some lights in the sky. But watch it. It's an airplane. It's a headlight airplane coming at you. Okay? You know, and I don't mean to be a jerk. I'm trying to explain to you, look, I'm sorry. I don't want you to make the mistakes that I did. I've been down that road, and you have to be credible. If you're going to talk about, I mean, just like Lynn Ketai, okay? Lynn Ketai didn't see any spaceship going over the city of Phoenix. She wrote in her first book that she did not see anything going over the city of Phoenix. Matter of fact, those lights that she's talking about on the UFO Hunter show and all this, my sightings of these lights, these 3 lights, that's not hers. Her first book, she writes that it was some guy, John, that filmed these lights and gave it to her. And now she's trying to say that she saw these lights and some kind of spaceship went over the city of Phoenix in a V-wide mile-shaped craft going 8 miles an hour, but yet nobody can film it and blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, it's crazy. You know, and she writes in her book that she didn't see anything, but the reports that did, and so she's going on that, right? And people are eating that stuff up, and they're not looking at what really happened that night. I did. I'm an investigator, okay? I looked into everything, all the Phoenix Lights stuff. That's what I did, and I came to the conclusion that, and because it's been over 20 years and no evidence of anything flying over the city of Phoenix, only hearsay, only people trying to get on TV, only people trying to sell a book, only people trying to sell movie tickets to Harkins Theater are the ones who are saying a spaceship went over the city of Phoenix when there's no evidence. How can you go on television and tell people something that you cannot back up? How can you do that? How come nobody else has been looking at this before? Why am I the only one that's saying, look, there's no evidence of any of that? What evidence do we have March 13th, 1997? Lights on the west side of South Mountain. That's it. Nothing going over the city of Phoenix. No evidence. And it went from 1,000 witnesses to 2,000 to 3,000. You know, it's just like, you being in the 3rd grade. Johnny, he skinned his knee on the swing, and by the time it goes around the school at the end of the day, oh my God, Johnny's losing his leg. He's in the hospital. He's gonna die. Oh my God. The 1997 Phoenix Lights got blown way out of proportion. There was no evidence to back it up. I'm sorry, but that's it. All right, and we have people like Lynn Ketai adding fuel to the fire. Why? So she can be on the soapbox, so she can meet, all these celebrities, so she can do all this stuff. When there's no evidence of this. How can people believe all this stuff, man? I don't want you to be like that. When you talk about something, I want you to be credible like I am. I want you to be able to back your stuff up. And that's why I'm so hard on people, and I don't mean to be, but I'm just trying to say, look, because everybody wants to see a UFO, everybody wants to get famous, everybody wants their YouTube channels to blow up. It's just so crazy nowadays, dude. So you have to be careful. You have to be a believer and a critic all at the same time. Okay? And we're going to talk about this, man. We're going to talk about this guy, dude. All right? That, I don't know where he came from. I don't know he's in some kind of country. I think, I don't know, Israel? I don't know. I can't even pronounce his name. But we're going to talk about his sightings, and we're going to show some stuff. But, that's all. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to help you out and to be a credible sky watcher and not someone, blowing smoke up people's butts and not being able to prove, to back up anything that you say. And you have to. You have to back stuff up. If you can't prove what you're talking about, there's no reason for you to be even saying anything, dude. Okay, let's move on. All right, so I have another channel, Haunted Encounter Adventures. I'm a paranormal investigator. Check it out. If you like ghosts and ghost hunting and things like that and history and stuff like that, check it out, man. Haunted Encounter Adventures on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. Come by, say hi. Throw me down your your ghost stories and videos. I'd love to see it. Haunted Encounter Adventures. Check it out. It's just another side project that I've been working on, my wife and I. And it's pretty cool. So yeah, Haunted Encounter Adventures on YouTube and on Facebook. Check us out. Okay, let's get on with this. Are we like, oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. We got like 50 things to talk about. Okay, so let's first, what is this here? Let's look at this. Okay, so let's take a look at this video real quick. So I filmed this video. Is that the, okay, yeah, that's it. I don't know why it's playing. Hopefully nothing else is playing. Let me check on this real quick. Nothing else needs to be playing. Oh, it is. That's why. Dang. Okay. Give me just a second. I got to stop all this stuff. All my videos are playing and they're not supposed to be. Don't you just love live television? Okay. Anything and everything that goes wrong, well, okay, so everything is playing, so the internet's probably going slow, and that's the reason why, and I'm sorry, I thought I stopped all this stuff. Dang. I hate that. Yeah, so if the video's been choppy and stuff, my apologies. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. Because I've got a lot of videos playing in the background, and that's not good. Okay, all right, so let's look at this one. So I filmed this one in March. All right, so let's take a look at it. Start from the beginning. So here's a petroglyph, right? And let's go back real quick. Let's look at this one. Let's look at this petroglyph. See the cross here? This is on South Mountain. We have a guy touching the cross there. Right? It looks like there might be even something inside there. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Okay, so we have that cross there. Right? And then the city of Phoenix. So Central Avenue. Central goes, when you go south on Central, in the heart of Phoenix, and Central will take you all the way to South Mountain. Now, downtown, where all the businesses are and shops and stuff downtown, you see all these petroglyphs, okay? All these symbols or whatever, all this Indian art, let's talk. And it's all the way down close to South Mountain. It kind of ends about a few miles away from South Mountain, but downtown, you see all these Indian art. Now, that's all fine and gravy. It's really cool. It's neat. Part of the Arizona culture. But what is the art saying? I mean, look at the cross here. You see the cross right there. All right, look at the spiral for the doorway. Okay, we have this guy here, this bow tie, barbell-looking guy here with energy legs. And then he's got this, he's holding another spiral here. We have mountains in the background. Look at the mountains there. You see, we have things up there in the sky above these mountains. See that? Okay, and then it's all in this cross, right? Okay, so one day I'm watching South Mountain. Here's a little better. Let's stop it there. Let's take a look at it. Here's a better view of it. Look. See, we got people hanging onto this guy. See his legs? So those legs are representing energy or power. Okay, that's why that's why it's like a lightning bolt there. It's not his kneecaps, okay? It's a symbol, right, of power, of energy, right? And so we have the mountains. Look at the mountains in the background. And we have things in the sky above the mountains. We have a diamond spiral there, right? And that spiral is going clockwise, okay? And where is it ending? It's ending in the mountain. It's hitting the mountain. So it's telling us that the doorway, that this symbol, this doorway, is at the mountain. See that? The spiral is ending at the mountain here. Look at this spiral here. And this spiral is representing, so what is it doing? It's going counterclockwise. Okay, so this spirit is coming out because he's connected. See that? He is connected to the spiral. So he's coming out of the doorway. He's coming out up from the underworld, right? He's coming out from the vortex, all right? And look, he's got like this bow tie. And look, is this a Tic Tac UFO everybody's talking about? Look, his head. His head is square. Why isn't his head round? Okay, his head is not round because this is not a normal head. All right, this is a Tic Tac that people like to call UFO. And we have this line here, or maybe a neck. People like to say it's his neck. And it's coming down to this barbell here, this bow tie. Okay, this is another UFO, another entity. So we have basically two entities. We have this barbell with this line. We're going to talk about these lines connected to this barbell with the energy symbols. We have the spirals of a diamond spiral and connected to these mountains with things above the mountains and the vortex inside a cross. Get it? And it's an orb. See how it's a circle orb and there's the cross. Okay. Now, let's look at the video. Let's look at the UFO. So I'm watching this thing. Well, there's another one. This is on South Mountain too. So here it's depicting a cross. This is a Mayan cross, by the way. This is not Holcomb art, this art right here. This is Mayan, okay? And look, it's depicting in flight. It's moving. We have an orb over here. Look at that. See that UFO orb there? Just like what we see in the skies today, people. Now we have this cross, right? And it's moving. You can tell because it's you can tell that it's moving. It's going that direction. It's moving right, I guess you could call it. Right? So let's fast forward. Let's go ahead and play this. So one day I saw this thing, this red thing come off South Mountain. I jumped on my camera and I filmed this thing. This is coming right at me. Now, give or take, this is a high-8 video camera. It's not very good technology back then. What is this? 2005, I guess it is. Yeah, 2005. Okay, let's stop it. Look at that. Can you see the cross in this? It's kind of hard to see on this angle. But we have this orb. Now, people would say, oh, that's a balloon, dude. Well, I'm sorry. Balloons just don't look like this and they don't fly like this, right? Let's examine this. Let's analyze this here for a minute. And look at that. Look at the, isn't that weird? Like the petroglyph, right? The petroglyph that we just saw kind of had the same type of stuff on the left. Remember the petroglyph we just saw? It's got like this, I don't know, more motion to it. Remember the cross that we just saw on the rock? And it's got the stuff coming off the cross over here on the left side. The exact same thing. Isn't that crazy? And now, so it's coming at me, right? So it's an orb and it's a cross, and it's an orb and it's a cross. And it's coming right at me. That's why it's, it's getting closer. Let's stop it there. Now you can kind of see the outlines of it. You can kind of see, the end of the cross there. It's kind of like an orb, I guess, right now. Look, oh, there it is. Boom, look at that. Look at that. Have you ever seen a balloon like this before? Anyone? Right? Look at that. And so, I'm not rich. I didn't have a very good video camera. And when this stuff happens, you got to be quick because this stuff happens so fast. And, by the time you see it, you need to jump on that camera, right? You need to get it warmed up, 1, 2, 3 seconds, hit record, and a lot could happen within those. A lot could happen by the time you see it, by the time the camera's ready, by the time you hit record. I mean, so much could happen in that little space of time that you have to be quick. And that's what I'm doing. I'm out there. I'm watching my kitchen window. I'm a mile away from South Mountain. I'm on the second floor of my apartment. I've got my camera looking at South Mountain. I'm waiting. Okay, and I see it, man. So boom, 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 boom. It takes a little while. So you're not going to sit there and make sure it's in focus. Make sure it's this. Make sure you don't got time for that stuff, man. This is happening too quick. So the best thing you can do is hit that record button and go for the ride, man. And that's what I do. So and it is crazy because and if I had the money to get a better equipment for better video, I would have done it, dude. So that is what it is. But you can clearly tell that this is not a balloon or anything to that nature. And that was my windowsill. You see that? Let's back it up. It flew right over my windowsill. There it comes. It's coming right at me. That's my windowsill. Okay, let's let this play on and see what happens. Okay, here we go. So this is still, these are still photographs here. You can see you can kind of see the cross. So, all right, so look at that. See, there's my windowsill right there. So let's just go ahead and put this here and let that play. And let's look at this, some of these pictures here. Okay, so here's that cross again. This is another cross. I don't believe, and right there, let's stop that video. Boop. There's what I was talking about there on the petroglyphs over here. That the red stuff coming off that orb, you know, I mean, right in here. You see what I mean? See what I'm talking about? I mean, is that red stuff, you know, what I just filmed? I mean, could be. So, go ahead and play that. All right. And here's the cross. Okay? So it's happening so fast. There's an orb is the cross. There's an orb is the cross. There's an orb is the cross. It's flying at me, blah, blah, blah. All right? But it's really a cross. And it's, I know it's to some it's kind of hard to see. Here's another still photograph of it. And you can really see the edges of the cross there. You can see the edges there. All right, so and then here I drew it out. See that? Can you see the cross now? You can see the edges there. See what I'm getting at here? You can see the edges there. And look at that there. That's what I mean. That's what I was talking about. Stop, stop. Oops. It got away from me. Got away from me. Let's try that again. There we go. Stop. Okay, so look at that. Let me get my arrow going. Right there. See that? Like how it's, I mean, like some kind of distortion or something. I don't know. It's weird. That's distortion. I mean, why is it only on that side? Just like what that petroglyph was talking about. Let's see if we can back it up here. Let's go right there. That's what I was talking about. See that? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to these crosses and stuff that we see on and there's a lot of these crosses, not only in Phoenix but like all over the world, especially in Mexico on the Mayan pyramids and stuff. And so when you see these crosses, you know exactly what it's talking about. All right. It's you know, it's an entity. It's a living creature. It's a living being. It's a UFOTAS. All right, this is not technology. These things are alive. They clearly knew that I was watching them, and it was like a game. And it got really intense there. And those of you who have been following me all these 25 years or so, man, you know, and been seeing my work. I mean, it's just phenomenal stuff. And it's just crazy weird. And that's the reason why they didn't want me to talk about this stuff on the UFO Hunter Show. Because it is. It's bizarre stuff, man. And you know, there's a lot that still goes over people's heads. And I understand that because this is all new to them. Now, this is in black and white. You can kind of see it a little bit better. The black and white there. You can kind of see the outline of the cross. You can see the outline there. Okay. And so, yeah, this is when you have been told that, you know, spaceships and crafts and little green man, I mean, that's what you're looking for. Okay. And so when you see something like this in the sky, you know, you just don't understand what you're looking at, and the only thing that you can explain is it's got to be a balloon, right? It has to be a balloon. It can't possibly be another being, a creature, okay? But the Native Americans been telling us all these years, and they have these photographs out there. These are prehistoric photographs. They didn't have video cameras back then. They didn't have camcorders, all right? They had stone boulders to record what they saw in the sky, something to remember, something to pass on from generation to generation to let people know what is going on here, what is here. And this is the reason why some places we find petroglyphs and other places we don't. Is because over here, nothing happened over there. But over here, this is where the event took place at. In the spot where it took place at. Right? So these petroglyphs just isn't random carvings in random spots. No, these petroglyphs are there for a reason. That is a written testimony. That is a prehistoric photograph of what had taken place right there where you are standing at that petroglyph. Now, there's a lot of petroglyphs when they're high up on a cliff. Okay, and you have to look up to see maybe a cross, maybe an orb, maybe a spiral. Okay, you have to look up. And what is the artist telling you? The artist is telling you, look, I saw something in the sky right here. And what better way to explain myself, because I'm not here, 1,000 years later to tell you what's going on. I'm going to tell you with my art. I'm going to include the landscape of what I saw. So here is a mountain, and in this direction, I saw something in the sky. So I'm going to climb up high on that mountain, and I want you to look up into the sky and see what I saw right here 1,000 years ago. That's what these petroglyphs are talking about here. Not some random stories, okay? On these sacred mountains, the ones with anthropomorphs, the ones with spirals, ones with stuff like this, these are sacred mountains. These are holy mountains. There's a lot of mountains around the earth where they're not sacred. They're not energy sources. They're not special. They're not holy. There's no spirals on them. There's no anthropomorphs. What petroglyphs do we find on there? We find Kachina ceremonies, hunting and gathering, things like that. So if you want to be a serious sky watcher and go hunt these UFOs down, you first need to find out the history of where you live at, the history of your city, the history of where you live, and find out if there's anything to do with the Native Americans and anything to do with a sacred mountain or a spirit mountain or a doorway mountain or any of that crazy stuff. And you go out there and you find spirals with anthropomorphs. Right there, that is the source. That is where you are going to see these beings at. Is where these spirals are located on these holy sacred mountains. Look for these spirals. That is the key. You see, they've already documented this stuff for us. All we have to do is go out there and learn and understand what they're talking about. And once you do, once you understand what these petroglyphs are talking about, woo, holy cow, man! It blows away all this other UFO sky watching nonsense, and it tells you the truth. It tells you what these things are. It tells you the history of these things. And what does it say? What does the history say? In my last show, they're all talking about, they're going to come out and tell us what UFOs are, and because everybody's seeing them now, and so the government's going to come out and say, and now all of a sudden they're saying they're back to swamp gas, they're back to trash. They will never tell you what these things are. They will mislead you. They're going to tell you that these are spaceships, technology, because that's what everybody can understand. That's what we can understand. That's what we can relate to. That's what we understand is technology, spaceships, and little green men, and beings from another world. That's all fine and gravy. I mean, I'm open to that because, the scientists have found at least 7, maybe 8 Earth-like planets on the outskirts of our solar system. And what's to say there's, some kind of other race out there that's more advanced and has visited Earth. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is what the evidence right now suggests is that these things are alive. These things are not spaceships. These things are not alien technology. That these things are living creatures, living beings. And when we look at some of these petroglyphs and we look at some of this rock art, especially like in Mexico, so the moon pyramid, all right, the moon pyramid, there's the king, the sarcophagus, the casket, the sarcophagus on top of it. There's a guy not an alien, but a Mayan guy in what looks like a spaceship. You've seen it, right? He's got his foot on the accelerator. There's fire coming down. He's got a mouthpiece. He's got his hands on the controls. Is it an alien? No, it's a human. It's a man. It's not an alien. It's a man. It's a man flying in a spaceship. And where did he get this technology from? Where did he learn this? From the spirits of the earth and sky. It's not the creature's spaceship. No. He was taught that. There's so much evidence to suggest that man has reached the heavens way before the Apollo 11 and the Kennedys and all that stuff. There's so much evidence that man has reached the moon, at least the moon, before our history wants us to believe. And what did they find at the moon pyramid? They found mica. Mica at the moon pyramid. That's a secret. No, a lot of people don't know that. But there's a secret chamber locked away. I saw a documentary on this. Okay, like I said, I'm not saying anything I can't prove. They found mica on the moon pyramid in Mexico. Why mica? Well, the space shuttle Columbia's, the space shuttles use mica for re-entering orbit when they're coming in because it's heat resistant. And mica is not even natural in Mexico. What the hell is it doing there, right? But yet they found mica at the moon pyramid where the sarcophagus is depicting a man in a spaceship. Duh. All these art that we see out there and the clay art and all this stuff and with people wearing helmets and stuff, is it aliens inside that? No, it's men. It's men in these spacesuits, man. From thousands of years ago. It's not aliens. It's men. It's people. It's humans. It's us. And where did we learn this from? From the spirits of the earth and sky. Stuff that we weren't supposed to know about. That's why the Great Spirit wiped out all this stuff during the flood. Because we weren't supposed to know about this. And so when you start talking about this, you know, especially to Dave Morris back then, we're going back to Dave here, and I tell him, look, I'm seeing these things, and it's connecting to the rock art. Uh-oh, that's taboo. That's scary stuff because my ancestors told me about this. And third, fourth, and fifth world, you know, every time the world changes, these beings are here, you know, to mislead mankind. Again, to help them supposedly, right? But actually, they're not the good ones. There are good ones and there are bad ones. And it's up to us to understand which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. And that's why I'm kind of here to help you understand more. Because there are, you know, these good ones and there are bad ones. And you know what? I've even found petroglyphs. It's in my book. Where there was like a war that was going on here on South Mountain. It's like the Hoax Indians were shooting bows and arrows at flying snakes in the sky. But there was another entity here. Another race of beings that was here on the Indian side that had 4 arms and had these staff weapons. And there's this one panel on South Mountain of the stick figure guy with 4 arms and this staff weapon. He's shooting at a flying serpent, a flying humanoid in the sky. It's on my website. It's in my book. It's on South Mountain. And he's shooting at a flying serpent. And there's other flying serpents flying around, and there's Indians shooting arrows at these flying serpents. So there was like a good race and a bad race of these beings. When we look at India, the India legends, the India talks about the Viamatis, all right, and how they went to war with these other supernatural beings, right, and mankind was their trophy, and the story goes on to say that there was a war, and obviously the good ones won because we're not enslaved anymore by the bad ones. And the legend goes on to say that the Viamatis, they buried these special weapons around the Earth because they know eventually they're going to have to come back one day and reuse these weapons. So they bury these weapons around the Earth because they know they're going to come back again of this war that's going to happen once again of these good entities and the bad entities, and humans are going to be their prize, right? And so the same kind of story I'm finding on South Mountain. So that could be another reason why they made South Mountain and give them apart, because not only are you going to find gold, but you're going to find a lot of other stuff there that probably could, wipe out civilization. I mean, there's probably some weapons there, some intergalactic whatever weapons, I don't know, but stuff that, these myths and legends talk about. But how did these legends, get started? You'll find out that some of these myths and legends came from real stories. That's how these things, came to be. And then they just kind of figured, well, it's just a legend. It's just a myth. This really couldn't happen. But that's where it came from, right? Okay, as I deal with this Charlie horse in my leg, let's move on. What is this over here? Oh, yeah. Have you seen the latest UFO sighting in Texas? Let's analyze this. Let me try to work out my Charlie horse. Oh, I hate that. Live television, folks. Anything and everything happens. I got to get me a new chair. All right. Ugh, hate that. Trying to be professional. Okay, well, I'm in pain. All right, let's take a look at this. This happened in Texas. I just found this. This was just now posted on Facebook today. This has happened in Texas. Now, let's analyze this, okay? Are these airplanes coming at you with the headlights? Let's look at the whole sighting before we analyze it. While I work out my Charlie horse. Oh, damn it. I might have to walk around here for a minute. Okay, let's look at that. What's going on here? Are these airplane headlights? No, and I can tell you how we can figure this out. Okay, so let's look at the sighting right here in the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. Oh my goodness, dude, I don't think I can go on like this. 4 lights. Look at this bottom one here. Okay? Watch the bottom one. Boom. See that? It's gone now. It disappeared. Airplane headlights will not disappear right in the middle of a flight. That's one way that you can, determine on how you can know and realize and understand that these are not airplane lights coming towards you. Okay? There's a lot of people out there filming these airplanes, and it does look like that they're standing still because they're coming at you. And they have these headlights on, and they're getting ready to land at an airport. That's the reason why they have their headlights on. And when they're coming at you, they look like they're not moving. And so there's a lot of hoax videos out there, a lot of hoaxers out there that film these airplanes. And this is the reason why I make sure when somebody asks me or somebody sends me a video, I always make sure that you always want to make sure you film how they leave the sky. Don't cut off anything. For something to be properly analyzed, because there's so many hoaxers out there, there's so many people misleading, and maybe they don't understand. Maybe they're doing it on purpose, and a lot of them are, because when these airplane lights are coming at you, and then soon as it's starting to turn into an airplane, that's when they cut it off. Okay. They don't want to show you that. They're not going to show you how these lights leave the sky, because if they do, then you're going to know that it's an airplane. So they cut it off. They cut it. They splice here. They edit there. We don't want to see that, man. If you're going to be credible, you must present the raw video. I'm sorry, dude, but that's the only way, because it's because the hoaxers has made it this way. If there wasn't any people out there faking UFOs for fame and notoriety, then we could probably believe most of the stuff But there are hoaxers, and there's more. I believe there's about 95% of the stuff that you see on the internet is a hoax, is a fake, is an airplane, is a drone. And I'm sorry, or CGI. It's fake stuff. All right? It's only a small percent, such as this stuff here, that is real. And how do we know it's real? Because I just explained once there that this light disappeared. And airplanes aren't going to do that. They're not going to turn off their headlights, all right? And then that one seems to disappear, but it's actually gone behind a power pole or something. So unfortunately, this person, they stopped the video. They don't show it how it leaves. But it's good enough to analyze that you can tell that it's real stuff and not airplanes. And that was the only way. If that light down here didn't disappear and they cut it off, I would have to say that it was airplanes. But because that light right there disappears, airplanes don't do that. That's how you can properly, one of the ways you can properly analyze someone's footage. So you're not being fooled. So yes, this is good. This is good stuff, in my opinion. And why do I say that? Because I've seen them in real life, man. I've seen them come up close to me. All right, I have firsthand knowledge of these things. All right, I have seen balloons, I've seen flares, I've seen garbage, I've seen bugs, I've seen drones, I've seen military stuff. I mean, anything and everything, right? I got familiarized with the normal stuff. So when I see something that's not normal, I understand that. Okay, it's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's not a balloon, right? Yeah, that's the way you have to do it in order to be credible. You just can't come out there and say, oh, look at this UFO, when it's really a plane. Okay, let's move on. Here are some petroglyphs here. Let's look at this here. This is great. These are some pretty cool petroglyphs here. And so I'm not sure where these are carved at. But I thought they were great. So we have these guys here. Now look, see how their arms are down? Look, there's no tail, no circle in the belly there. And it's like so we know that's a regular guy. Okay, we know that's a regular human. This isn't. That's like an anthropomorph. That's like a spirit being. This guy over here, now that's kind of weird. I'd have to say he's like a spirit being. Because his arms are all kind of weird. And of course, we have the orbs above his head. And look, there's a line. See that line? Now look at this here. Uh-oh, ladies and gentlemen. Why would the Indians, thousands of years ago, be carving balloons? Why does that look like a balloon? Right? See that line there? Do you see that line? In my book, on my website, in my videos, I show this. I show how that line there has picked up animals, has picked up people by their heads and carried them off into the sky. That is what that line is. That's not a balloon with a string. They didn't have balloons and strings back then. And why would the Indians be carving balloons? Okay? Why are they carving this? Because that's what they saw. It's not balloons. This is the spirit. That's an orb. The orbs that we see today, he's got this line. That line is deadly. And sometimes they connect together. Like right there. See, there's a little line there. Now, this guy is scary. This pitchfork, holy cow, man. Holy cow. Those of you who've been following me know that I'm very afraid of this pitchfork. All right? That pitchfork has been depicted picking people up, man. That pitchfork is scary. Okay? I would not want to see him in the sky because if you do, you know something is up. Here are some spirals there. See the spiral? Now, that's not a spiral, but that is. Because, I mean, this one is not connected, but that is. That's a spiral, okay? It's going clockwise. It's a doorway in, all right? And it's going down, so it's like these creatures, these orbs are going into the spiral. Now, you can tell, look, this is not a spiral because it's not connected. There's so many people misinterpreting this type of art, thinking that it's a spiral, but it's not. It's not connected. All right. This is a spiral because it's connected. This is not. This is an orb. Now, these lights, right? Those of you who have filmed these lights in the sky, these Phoenix lights, those of you who have seen them, or those of you who have seen my videos and other people's videos, it's like plasma, all right? It's energy. And that's what the South Mountain is all about, okay? South Mountain was created by a fault line. This is the reason why these beings like these certain mountains around the earth, all right, is because of the fault line energy. They're after these energy sources. Now, it comes in a pattern, all right? I learned this in watching South Mountain for a number of years. I learned that the first year, they came on certain times of the month, on certain times of the year, all right? After the equinox, before the solstice, equinox, it all has to do with the sun. This is one of the reasons why the Hoax were so into the sky watching, okay? Because they track the sun. Now, there's a lot of petroglyphs out there, light and shadow markers. All right, so they carved these spirals oriented towards the east. They put a big boulder on top of another boulder on top of that spiral. And so when the sun comes around during the equinox, it casts this shadow down on this boulder, and it cuts this shadow through the spiral into the stone and as time progresses. Now, the archaeologist wants us to believe, well, it's the changing of the seasons, and it's time to plant corn. It has nothing to do with planting corn. It's telling us when these beings are going to come back. It's actually telling us what beings we're going to see, because they carved that little being right next to that spiral, all right? And that was the pattern here. This pattern's been going on for thousands of years. They're following the sun. They're following the energy. That first year I watched them, they come on certain months. The next year, it repeated itself. The next year, same stuff, same months. Equinox and solstice, when the sun gets in the right position of these energy lines, of these solstices, of these ley lines, if you will, it creates a fusion effect. It opens up these doorways to these special places around the earth. And it attracts these beings to these energy spots. Now, the Native Americans are saying they're going down into the underworld. On a scientific analysis, they're going down into that fault line. They're going down into that energy source. They're absorbing the energy. This is why they're glycerine. They're sparkling like glycerin coal, man. They're sucking up that energy. So one, for instance, right? So like I said before in the beginning, everybody, all these shows, they know who I am. They know my research. I've been on the internet. Search my name, dude. I've been all over the place, right, talking about this stuff ever since 2005. And so Skinwalker Ranch, what is it? Season 1, episode 4, I think it is, maybe 7, can't remember. But they tried to say, they wanted to see if there was any energy in the sky there at Skinwalker Ranch. Now, there's mountains around Skinwalker Ranch that has the same exact type of petroglyphs that are on South Mountain, that are on these holy mountains, such as, the real Mount Sinai, Mount Jobalala, I can't even say it right, but that's who it is, Mount Sinai, the real Mount Jobalala, I don't know. But it's the exact same type of petroglyphs. And so it's the fault lines, it's the fault line energy around Skinwalker Ranch. So they got this crazy idea. They saw my research. They wanted to see if there was any energy in the sky. So they built these rockets. They put these sensors in it. They shot these rockets up to see if there was any energy in the sky. And when they did that, lo and behold, what was up there waiting for them? But a big light orb in the sky. And so this popped, the parachute popped, the energy is reading, and they're saying, oh my God, that craft must be making the energy, because they came down and they analyzed it. They saw the UFO up there, they saw that light, and they think that this light, this UFO craft is generating this energy, is making this energy. Well, they've got it all wrong, okay? It's not making the energy, it's there for the energy, right? And it's not a spaceship. It's going to take some time until people realize this, maybe another 30 years, right? Until people start to realize that this is not spaceships that we're dealing with here. These are living creatures. These are living entities. And they're after the fault lines. They're after the energy, right now anyway. And they're waiting until mankind wants them once before. In order to understand these things, you must understand the history of these things. What does the history say about these things? Well, what did I say in the beginning? When the Hoax first arrived here, they didn't know how to live. So these beings came down and taught these people. In return, it led down to it ended up in their downfall. The Hohokam people who followed these lights, who treated these lights as gods, who thought these things were some kind of worship purposes, teachers, ended up taking them away, erasing them from history. Okay. Every time mankind deals with these things in the sky, it leads to their downfall. This is the reason why the government is never going to tell you about these things, because they're scary. It's a scary thing that's going on. I have seen some crazy, weird stuff at South Mountain, and the UFO Hunter Show was right. Yeah, the people is not ready for this, man. But I'm here to tell you that is what's going on. This is what's going on here. It is some crazy stuff. It's not technology. These beings are alive, and they're very scary. Okay, they're huge. Sometimes they're as big as dragons. All right, they're huge. These things are big, and there's big scary monsters. Okay, and I don't know how else to explain it. And their history says that they're not here to help us. They're here to conquer us. They're here to make us slaves again. Okay, and that's the big cover-up here. That's the biggest cover-up of the world, is that these things are real. They've always been here, and they're going to be here after us. They were here before us, and they're going to be here after us. All right, and these things don't die. So the things that we see now are the exact same beings that the Hohokam and the Mayans and all these other tribes saw in the sky also. They don't die. All right, and it's deep. It's heavy. And if the government came out right now and says, "Oh, guess what, guys? There's flying serpents hanging around South Mountain, and these Phoenix lights is the leading cause of what happened to the Hohokam's disappearance," how many people would actually stay in that valley if they actually knew what was going on there? They're not going to say anything. This is scary stuff, man. That city would just crumble. I mean, if people would actually understand this, right? I mean, it's just me talking about this, but what if everybody understood what I understood? What if everybody learned and saw what I have seen? Would they still be in that city? Would they still want to live there and have their kids there? Would they still want to build houses on that mountain? Oh my God, dude. I saw this house, and this house is built on top of petroglyphs, on top of spirals where serpents and orbs come and go from. Oh my God. One of these days, these people are going to be sitting in their living room. They're going to be watching TV, and this serpent, this huge flying entity, Quetzalcoatl, is going to come right out of their living room and go up into the sky, and they're going to shit. Okay? I'm sorry, but you don't put houses on top of spiral doorways. You don't do it. Okay. Hopefully one day people will understand this. Okay. Let's move on before I get crazy. Okay, what is this? What's this clip? Okay, here we go. This is cool. Here again, look at the spiral. Now, where's the spiral ending? The spiral is ending down into that crack. See that? See? It's telling us, man. And what is it? It's clockwise. So it's a doorway end to this crack. And we have a man over here. We know he's a man because he looks like he's got a round head. His arms are down. He has no tail. He's a regular dude. We have an orb over here. And then look at this. See all this crazy stuff? That's what these things are. That's what they look like. They're worms. They're serpents. They're weird stuff, man. I'm telling you. It's not spaceships. It's not crafts. And a lot of people are going around saying technology, but they can't back it up. They have no evidence of anything. Where's the proof at? The proof is here in our history. The proof is the petroglyphs. The evidence to back all this up is in these biblical texts. Is in these stuff that's been written 3,000 to 7,000 years ago that explain on what these things are, that talk about this stuff. It's crazy. We can read these ancient texts, and then we can go to some of these sacred mountains, and we can see the photographs of what these ancient texts are talking about. That's where the credibility lies. So we have the petroglyphs depicting these things. We have the ancient texts talking about these things, and we see these things in the skies for our own eyes. That is where the credibility lies. Not hearsay of craft that you cannot back up. Hearsay of having an alien in your closet, trying to sell a book, trying to sell movie tickets like Lynn Kitai, trying to stay on her soapbox. If you're going to make a fantastic claim like that, you must be able to back it up. And that's what I'm doing here today. I am backing up what I am talking about through these symbols that has been carved over 1,000 years ago on these sacred mountains, and also has been written about these beings 3,000 to 7,000 years ago. That is where the credibility lies. Not somebody trying to tell you to smoke up your butt, saying that these are spaceship, these are crafts, I've been abducted, all this crazy stuff, and you can't. There's no evidence of that. There's no proof. In today's world, because there's so many hoaxers and so many liars and so many people trying to be famous and special and all this crazy stuff, you must be able to back up what you talk about. And if it wasn't for all these hoaxers, then maybe we could probably believe some of them. This is really cool. Look at this. I really like this glyph here. I'm not really sure where this is at. But this is very interesting. This is a very interesting glyph because we have people on horseback, right? But we got these things up here. Now, is that two suns? Is that two suns? That is a really interesting petroglyph. That is really, really cool. Or is that two orb lights? I'm kind of thinking those are two suns, man. You know, so maybe one time in Earth's history, there was two suns. Maybe this is the regular sun that we have now, and maybe that's another sun that was off further away. I don't know, but it's interesting. Isn't this a really, really cool petroglyph? I love it. Like from this rock here, this sand rock, it looks like Utah. I'm going to say this is in Utah. I really like that. That's why I brought it to the show tonight, because I really wanted to share that with you, because I thought that was really cool. Really like that one. What is this? Oh yeah, here's more glyphs. Let's look at this one. There we go. There we go again. There's the spiral. See? And where is it at? It's in the crack, dude. It's in the crack. You can't get more plainer than that. Okay? You can't get more explanation than that. It's in the crack, dude. It's telling you that's the door. All right, that's the emergence point. And where is it going? It's clockwise. It's going in. So it's a doorway in, all right, to the fault line, to the energy source, to the underworld. Right? Right. Look at this. Look at this one. This is cool. This is like art. This is a painting. This is a pictograph, they call it. Petroglyph. Petroglyph. So it's a cave painting. It's not carved, it's a painting. Look, he's holding an orb. This man is holding this orb there. Isn't that great? Stuff we see in the skies today, folks. The stuff that they saw years ago. And they carved what they saw, man. They drew what they saw. Okay, so we have Michelle Bryant sent me this really cool silver platter looking thing, and I'm wondering if that's real silver or not. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing this to my attention. This is really, really cool. She really scored on this. She didn't pay a lot for it. I think she got it maybe a convenience store or a secondhand store or something. But, man, she really scored on this. Look at this. This is really cool. And it kind of looks like it's real silver. So it's really hard to tell with this photograph. But look at this. Look at this. We got spirals up there, right? And these beams, right? And look, it's the spiral is ending up, right? So there's a door in the sky. It's telling us there's a vortex in the sky, right? And so it's going clockwise, right? So it's a doorway in. So these beings are like getting ready to go into the spiral. I just think this is really, really cool. And see that? This is a type of energy symbol here. And it's interesting on these things here. This right here kind of puzzles me. I believe this is Hopi. This is Hopi art here, Hopi glyphs. But this right here kind of puzzles me. So I had to go back and look and see if I found anything else resembling this. So it's really interesting. This right here could be a weapon, all right? But these are neat here. It's like a type of antlers, right? And look at these glyphs that I found. Let's go put that over there. Here's some petroglyphs here. And you can see the same type of, see that there? The exact same type of horns, if you will. And so, and look at that spiral there. You know, there was one time where Pam and I was out there on South Mountain and we saw this light. And it's on my Facebook page, or it's on my YouTube channel and my website. We saw this light in the sky. And out from that light came this black thing. And so I'm on there on the camera. I'm trying to film it without shaking. It's crazy because it's really high. It's really hard to record. Pam's over there with the binoculars and she's screaming, "It's a snake! It's a snake! It's a serpent! It's a snake!" This black snake, this black serpent came out of this light orb above South Mountain. It went across South Mountain. I'm filming it. See, look at the video, man. Judge for yourself. It's a snake. And then it changes shape into a stick figure man. And it looks like he's got two tentacles or two horns or something coming out of his head. And he's got his hand on his waist. And he's just cruising over South Mountain. Over the mountain there until I lost him. Look at the video. It's on my book. It's only $3. Look at that. The exact same type of stuff. And we've seen it. We've filmed it. This is a day sighting. Here we go again. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Look at this one here. And so I was trying to figure out, maybe these are spirals, but it's not a spiral. So I don't know. It's interesting, and I've never really came across anything like that before. So what she has is something very special, and she's very lucky to own this. Because I can't find anything else representing this. And if you guys have, please send it to me. I'd love to check it out because I can't find anything else that has this type of art with it. It's like a handbag or something. I don't know what it is, but both of these creatures, both of these entities they're holding these circle devices here. And so that's totally weird. And so look at this glyph over here. Isn't that cool? So he's holding this spiral, man. Is it a spiral? No. Ooh. Fooled me for a minute. Look at that. Is that a spiral, folks? No, it isn't. Why? Why isn't that a spiral? Because it's not connected. I mean, this part is, right? This is, it's only connected to his arm, but it's not connecting the rest of it, right? Oh, all these other dots. Do you see all these dots? Someone's been shooting at them. Those are bullet holes, bullet fragments. So that's what all these little freckles, dots are. Those are bullets. That's someone's been shooting at this petroglyph. Is that a spiral there? Let's look at it. Let's try to enhance it. Nope. Not a spiral. Not connected. Isn't that cool? Way interesting. That's how you can determine what spirals are. So a lot of people have been asking me, and I don't know if I didn't bring it in. So a lot of people are asking me, let me bring this in real quick. Give me just a second. I forgot to add this photo. Let me grab it real quick. A lot of people are asking me about the Freemason G that's on South Mountain that I show every once in a while. I talk about it sometimes, but I really don't go into it much. Let me find it here. Let me find this photograph real quick. My apologies that I wasn't ready. But this was like last minute stuff on this photograph here. But we have the first Freemason in Phoenix, okay? And it was a governor, Governor Hunt. And this is his pyramid. And he was governor from 1912 to 1933. And even though this pyramid doesn't show it, where's my arrow at? Where's my arrow? There's my arrow. Even though this pyramid doesn't show it, it is exactly like, I mean, this photograph, it's exactly like the pyramid that we see on the dollar bill. It's got bricks. Let's see if I can zoom in and you can actually see the bricks. No, can't really see them on this photograph. But it's exactly like the same type of pyramid that we find on the dollar bill. Okay, so it's Hunt's family. Actually, they're buried down here. This is just the entrance. They're not all buried in the pyramid. They're all buried under here. This is a tomb down in here. And this is a Freemason. The very first Arizona Freemason. And so we find this G on South Mountain. Let's go ahead and remove this. We don't need that no more. I found this G on South Mountain. Now, there's a lot of like Roman numerals. There's a tomb. It's on my book. It's only $3. Check it out. Amazon Kindle. And so there's this tomb with Roman numerals in front of it. And I ran into a few other people that says that they've found Roman numerals around South Mountain. I've only found one Roman numerals, but I've talked to other people that says that they've found others. And so that's pretty incredible. So somebody's going around documenting these tombs. Okay, they're marking them. They're counting how many tombs are on South Mountain, and they're putting Roman numerals in front of them. And I believe it's part of the Masons or this secret society that's going on, because they know what's on South Mountain. That's what these black helicopters are all about. That's what these airplanes are all about, that are watching these entities. I believe they're a part of that. This happens to be like this is. I was going to show you a map on where this is located at, but it's very, very hard to understand. It's very hard to find. The only thing I can say, for those of you who are interested, I'm going to give you some clues. So if you know where Natural Bridge is on South Mountain, you want to go to Natural Bridge, and you want to go east. All right, and when you go east, you're going to come down into this little crevice canyon. All right, you're going to be hands and knees crawling down this canyon. But once you get to it, you're going to find this G here with this crown. Now, back in here, I didn't photograph it like I should. This is actually, look at this dirt here. You see that? There is something buried here. This is a tomb back up in here. They're actually marking this. There's a tomb that's back up in here in this little crawl space. There's something buried up in there. That's why this G is here. Is because whoever these people are, the Freemasons, the secret society, whoever these people are, they documented these special places way before the city actually started to become a city. They built all this. They started whenever they started to find out what's really South Mountain was all about, what's buried there, the history. They went to go check it out for themselves, and they found all these tombs and all this crazy stuff. And so they marked like Roman numerals or G's or crowns. There's even a king facing towards some pyramids out there on South Mountain. And which isn't Holcomb. The Holcombs didn't carve a king. It could have been the Spanish conquistadors, because there's evidence of the Spanish being here on the mountain, and so that's what they're doing. This is a symbol for something that's back in here. It's telling us that there's a tomb. There's a tomb here Something very special is buried here. And you can tell by the soft dirt. Look at the soft dirt here. And this nice shaved wall. And then this rock here. It's unfortunate that I didn't film more of that. At the time, I was more concerned about the G. I wanted to document the G. And then we have petroglyph carvings here. Look at that. That's Holcomb. This is Holcomb here. These carvings. Now look at that. You see this now? That actually could be a map. All right? This could be tunnels that's back up in here. That's in this mountain here. That's in this hallway, this crevice. This could be a map. It's just my speculation. But when you look at it, I mean, it could be hallways that's going back up into here. This is Holcomb. This is not. And they're marking their territory. They're marking their claim. They're not digging it up, because part of the rumors and interpretations on South Mountain and the Phoenix Lights is that these lights is protecting the gold that the Mayans and the Holcomb left in this sacred mountain. Because eventually the Holcombs, the Mayans, are going to come back one day and claim all this gold. And so these lights, these sky creatures, these spirits of the earth and sky are actually guarding these tombs. Is this one of the reasons why they're not digging it up? Not only is it going to change Arizona's history, but it's also going to upset the sky spirits? Could be. But that is one of the legends, one of the stories on South Mountain and these lights, these Phoenix Lights, is that they're guarding the gold that's on South Mountain. Because they're waiting for the Mayans to come back one day to claim this gold and claim whatever else isn't buried there. I think we need to dig up at least one tomb. Not all of them, but at least one. I think someone needs to go to the news. Someone needs to go to the archaeologists. Someone needs to go to ASU and talk to the archaeologists over there. Not the city one, but the classes, the school kids who are studying archaeology, and talk about South Mountain. And we need to open up at least one tomb. Hey, this is part of our history, okay? I don't think they should keep this away from us. Why are they hiding this? We need to know about this stuff. If we're in danger, if these lights are here to threaten us, we need to know about it. If these lights actually took these Holcomb people away, we need to know about this. You can't hide this from us. That's not right. You need to let us know what the hell is going on, because this is our planet. This is where we live. It's in our backyard. And if there's a danger here, then you need to tell us. I don't care if it's going to collapse your money system, all right? And everyone's going to run and not stay in this valley anymore. They shouldn't. They need to leave, because these things eventually are going to get pissed off and start taking people away. And that's one of the reasons why these helicopters and black air and airplanes is watching, especially me now. Right? Because I'm going up there. I'm talking to them. I'm filming them. I'm interacting with these things. I'm making contact with these things. I know how to bring these things up. All right? I found the secret incantations on how to bring these things out of South Mountain. And if somebody else can do that, they're waiting. These airplanes, they're watching now. And they want to see if they start picking people up. Because once they do, then they know they're going to alert the president. They're going to alert everybody else that's in higher ranking, these officials, and they're going to go underground. They're going to hide and let all these lights and serpents start taking people away in the city. That's what they're waiting for. They're monitoring what's going on. They're watching them. They're trying to get them out of the area. They don't want anybody else to notice that these things are here, because nobody else is paying attention to them. And that's how they're getting away with being in our skies, is because no one is paying attention to them. If you would go out there and do what I do and watch these things for at least 2 years, go out, not just 1 year, not 1 day, not 1 week, but at least 2 years. Go out there on South Mountain and dedicate yourself the way I did. You will see them. You will understand. Go out there and talk to them. Go out there and acknowledge them. You want to see them? They're there. They're going to come and see you. That's how it works. They know who's on the mountain and who's trying to contact them. It's happened to me. That's how I was able to get all these fantastic shots. That's how I was able to get these things flying over my window. How else am I able to do that? Because I went out there and I acknowledged them. I talked to them. I brought flutes up there. I played music for them. I talked to these petroglyphs. And that's what the archaeologist is talking about in his book. One of the things that I agree on is that these symbols, these petroglyphs, has the power to invoke the spirits. And I've done that so many times by accident. I've gone up there and I've talked to these petroglyphs, and the next day or that day, I see one in the sky right above me. That's the secret. And so these black helicopters and white airplanes, they're watching, they're waiting, they're monitoring. And as soon as they start seeing it go down, that's what they're waiting for all these years. They're getting them out of the area, they're monitoring who's watching them, who's not watching them. They have these helicopters and white airplanes. See, I believe in watching the activity on South Mountain. I noticed that sometimes this black helicopter would come over the mountain, and he would hang over that mountain, all right, for a little bit. He would hang right over this spot, okay? And then as soon as he leave, about 20 minutes later, a UFO, an entity, would either come out of the sky or come out of the mountain in that area. How did he know? How did he know about that? I think when the energy starts to build up in a certain spot around the earth, around the mountain there, I think you're able to see it with this technology, whether it's infrared, whether it's type of camera, I don't know, but I have seen this white airplane, this white Cessna airplane with this black dome under it. It's just like the domes we see in the supermarkets for shoplifters. This dome was under this white airplane. It's on my book. It's in my book, Amazon Kindle. Pick it up, $3, can't beat it. And there's this dome, there's a camera there. And I think once the energy starts to build up, they can see that in their technology. And once that door opens up, either an entity, a UFO, a creature will come out of that, or will go into that same area. I don't know. I can't explain it, but that's what I've witnessed. Okay, what do we got going on over here? Not that. Let's not make everybody dizzy. Okay, so much to talk about. Okay, let's look at this. What is this? Okay, so let's talk about this guy. I don't know. I can't even pronounce his name. Okay, but let's look at one of his UFO films, one of his UFO videos. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this real quick. What is this? Okay, I want you to look at this video here. Okay, look at it closely. I'm going to enlarge it here for you. I'm going to blow it up for you. Now I want you to watch this. This is what he's telling everybody is a UFO. Watch this. Pretty neat, isn't it? Isn't that neat? Want me to stop it for you here? Stop it right there. Right there. Okay? Look at that. It seems like to be like 4 lights there. Now watch. Pretty neat, isn't it? It is really neat. But see, now look how he cuts it off. See that? Let's look at it normally without zoomed in or anything. Let's watch it. I don't know if you guys know who this guy is. You probably have. Oops. I'm sorry about that. Shoot. What happened? Oh my goodness. What happened? There we go. Okay. See, as soon as it goes behind a tree, he cuts it. Why? Why do that? Why not film it going past the tree? Why not chase it down? Why? Why is he stopping it right there? Why? Why does he stop it there? Get a good look at this guy. I'm not sure what his name is. I can't pronounce it. He's from another country. But he's got all these videos on his YouTube channel. And it's all cut here, sliced there. None of it's raw video. He's hiding stuff. See the way the video cuts out there? You see that? Okay, now, let me show you something. Let's take a look at this. This is a C-130 gunship. See that? Look what it does. Kind of resembles what we are seeing over here in this video, right? But this guy isn't trying to say that this is a UFO. This guy is telling us, yeah, this is a C-130 gunship. Look at the lights on it. See that? And look how it flies right over us. See the blinking lights there? Look at that. Okay? Now, let's compare the two. Let's stop this video here. Let's stop it there. Let's enhance this video. Let's bring it up. And let's play this one. And let's compare the two. Let's look at them both together. Let's analyze this together. See that? You see the resemblance here? Okay? This is the stuff that I'm talking about. There's a lot of hoaxers out there who are misleading the public on purpose. This guy clearly is. This guy is a hoaxer. All right? He's not filming it as it passes by the tree. Why not chase the damn thing down? I do. When these things flying by me, I film it as much as I can. I don't cut and slice it up. Okay? Look at the resemblance here. Look. What this guy is filming here is an airplane. And all of his videos is cut and sliced, and so you can't analyze it properly. He's fooling you. This is the new hoaxer. And this is the reason why I try to explain to people, look, you must understand what is natural before you can start filming the non-natural, if that makes any sense. All right? And you must understand what you're looking at. I mean, as soon as I saw that video, saw his video, I knew exactly what it was because I used to live by an Air Force base, and I seen these C-130s fly right over. Just saw this one here on the right. You know, it's flying right over me, and these big, huge, bright lights, man, it's crazy. It does look like a big UFO. Excuse me. This is the new hoaxer. He's filming drones and airplanes and you know, you just gotta really be careful. Don't be fooled. Don't be taken in to hoaxers, man. Because they're preying on your ignorance. This guy is preying on people's ignorance. Why? Because people don't know better. They take stuff and for the people's words, just like Lynn Ketai, the Phoenix Lights, Lynn Ketai. Just because she's some kind of so-called doctor, she must not lie. She has to be credible because she's a doctor, right? Well, she's misleading the public. She has no evidence of anything, but she's preying on people's ignorance. Selling a book, selling movie tickets, getting on the news. But there's no evidence of what she's saying. Her first book, like I said before, look on my YouTube channel. I talk about it. Her very first book, in 2004 book, copyright 2004, talks about how she did not see the lights, talks about how these lights that she now claims is her was given to her by some other guy. and all her revised books, she's changing her stories. Like there's one book where she claims she's over here, but at the same time she's over there. I mean, come on now. And people are just eating this stuff up, and she's misleading the public. And it's people like this that are giving ufologists and real UFOs a bad name. And that's what makes it so hard to understand, what's real and what's not. So you can't be fooled anymore. Don't be fooled by hoaxers. If they're chopping videos up, if they're not filming everything, if you're not seeing raw video, okay, you want to stay away from these guys and stay away from this guy because he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, he really doesn't, and it just makes me sad, and it really upsets me a lot that these hoaxers are out there doing that. They're preying on people's ignorance because they don't know any better, and it's really sad. And so that's why I'm trying to teach you. Look, you must first understand what's natural. You must understand airplanes, balloons, weather balloons, whatever it is. You must first look at all that. Okay, where am I going? Where's my picture at? Okay, so where's my picture that I'm looking for? What's this? Okay, we'll get to that here in a minute, but right now I'm looking for... Okay, let's talk about some of these buried pyramids around Phoenix. Okay, let's look at some of these pyramids here. Let's put these little pictures over here for now so I don't lose them. Because it's been a long show, guys, and thank you so much for sticking with me and listening to me babble. Okay, so look at this. This is in Mayan. This is in Mexico. Excuse me. And look, in 1900... This is what the hill looked like. But when they dug all the dirt out of it in 2020, look what they revealed. See that? It's a buried pyramid. And it's been buried on purpose. It's been hidden on purpose. This isn't natural. I mean, the landscape isn't going to do that over time. This is on purpose. The Mayans covered this pyramid on purpose. Okay? So let's put that there. Let's look at that for a minute. Now let's look. Where am I going? Okay, so now look at this here. This is on South Mountain. Now, you see that pyramid there? This is on Holbrook Trail. This is in my book. Amazon Kindle, $3. Can't beat it. Pick it up. That pyramid there. Okay? Now, let's look at the petroglyphs that is carved on it. It's carved right in front of it. Let's put this over here. So this petroglyph is sitting right in front of this pyramid. Now you can see that the serpent, because Holbrook Trail, there's a lot of flying serpents in that area. A lot of carvings. And so what the artist is trying to do is trying to tell us that there's two pyramids here. There's that pyramid that I'm pointing at. Right here. And then we have another pyramid. And then the serpent is making the pyramids. All right, and then down in here, it talks about something buried inside this hill, inside this pyramid. When you look at my book, there's better photographs of it. I think I might even have it here. I'll look for it here. I think it is here somewhere. But it's talking about this pyramid here. So the artist is telling you, look at this pyramid. See this rock art is in front of this pyramid, right? And here it is. That's the pyramid. That's the hill that it's in front of. And then there's another pyramid, and it's back over here somewhere. And then we have this serpent, or serpent. We have this entity, this UFO entity, this orb, and he's growing arms and legs, right? And he's right in between these two pyramids. Where's that picture at? Here. So here's the full petroglyph that's in front of the two pyramids on Holbrook Trail. Let's blow this up for you guys. So we have the serpent making the two pyramids. And then we have something right here carved inside this pyramid. So I went and I took a look on the other side. I walked all over this pyramid as much as I could. I walked around it. I walked up it. And what I discovered on the back side, on the south side of this pyramid, is there's a doorway. There's an entrance there. And it's been covered up by these huge boulders. And it's also aligned with the summer solstice. So this little shadow dot comes through the top of the entrance, and it shoots it on the floor. And it goes, when the sun moves across the sky, it casts this light beam, this light dot or whatever, and it goes along the ground, and then it goes up into the pyramid, right? And that's on the back side of this pyramid here. So there's a chamber, there's something in here, because that's what this petroglyph is telling us. Here. Arrow. Okay. See? There's something in this pyramid here. This pyramid here. There's something there. I go into more detail in my book. Now, let's look at something else. Let's look at this. So, this right here is above Holbrook Trail. And you can see the city of Phoenix in the background, way over here. Okay, that's the city of Phoenix. So this is we're looking towards Phoenix here. We're on South Mountain, we're looking north. We're looking towards the city. And look at these blocks here. Look at this. Look what I'm pointing at. See this? Look at these chiseled out blocks. See that? These are stacked on top of each other. Now look what I'm standing on. You see all this dirt? And look, it's buried. This wall is buried under all this dirt here. This is on purpose. This is not natural. Right? This is real. There's something here. Okay? These rocks are not natural. These are stacked by somebody very big, very powerful. Now, let's look on the other side of this. Let's see. Here it is. Now, this is facing the city. Now, you can see this. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a further back view of it. You can get a better idea on what's going on here, because I took a further back photograph. But you can see on how there's a wall, and look, it's been all destroyed. We'll talk about that in a minute here. And then all this dirt, right? And the wall is going inside the dirt here. You see that? Look at that. Look how precise that is. Does that remind you of other things that we've been seeing? You know? All these other discoveries and stuff. Look at that. These rocks have been piled up. This is a wall. And it's going inside this dirt pyramid here. This is man-made dirt. This is covered up on purpose. The mines and the Hoax covered that up. Now let's look. Is this it? No, that's not it. Let's look on the other side if I can find it. Like I said, there's about 50 pictures to talk about. Okay, so this, what is this? Okay, that's not what I'm looking for either. So much to talk about. Let's see if I can find it. I just had it just a minute ago. Okay. Now, this is facing the city. And you can see this on Central Avenue. So when you're driving on Central and you're going into South Mountain Park, you will see that to the left of you. This is on Hobart Trail. Look what the CCC had done. The CCC, the Civil Conservation Corps, was part of the New Deal by President Roosevelt for part of the Depression right before World War II. And so what he did is he hired a bunch of people to live on South Mountain, about 200 people. And what they did is they built ramadas, and they built trails, and they built cooking places, camping spots, whatever. And they blew up petroglyphs, all right? And this was one of them that they totally devastated. This is the wall. This is what's left of the wall. Because when you're looking from, when you're at Phoenix and you're looking at South Mountain and you look up, you can see that wall. You can clearly tell that it's a man-made or giant-made wall. It's not natural. So, and the only way to do it is to blow it up. And there were tons of petroglyphs stuff. I climbed up there, and there's only one petroglyph left. It's some kind of diamond-looking object with a dot and some legs coming out of this diamond. That's the only thing left. There's a spiral on the back side of this wall, but that's it. The rest they blew up. They can still, there's a major cover-up going on here in the city of Phoenix. And the evidence is all over the place. You just have to look for it. And when you see it and recognize it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And this is one of them. They totally blew up that giant wall. And it's going inside a pyramid. See what I'm saying? This is the other side. See? It's been covered up. It's been buried. There's a major cover-up conspiracy going on in the city of Phoenix. The evidence is just everywhere. Now, let's look at something else. What's this? Now, let's look at this one. This was taken on the White Tank Mountains on the west side. And you can see this pyramid over here. And it resembles the pyramid to the left over here. See that? This is Mexico. This is Phoenix, Arizona. This is Mexico. This is Phoenix, Arizona. Let's look at another one. Now, this was taken when Heather Arnold and her daughter was here visiting Spencer, and we saw this rainbow. I took her up on the white tanks to show her the petroglyphs, and we saw this rainbow. And I've always been fascinated with this hill here. You see this hill right there? Isn't that interesting? Let's blow this bad boy up. Let's take a bigger look at this. You see that hill there? That's something. That is something buried there. And the archaeologists ain't going to do this. They're not going to go on there and uncover all this. All right? Because if they do, then it's going to rewrite the history of Phoenix, and it's going to talk about all this crazy stuff that we've been going over for the last 2 hours. Sorry, guys. I know it's been a long, long journey. Thank you for sticking with me. But there's a lot of information here. You know, this is 20 years of research. All right? There's so much that I've discovered out here. You just can't fit it in all in one. You know, I mean, there's just so much. But look at this. In this neat, we have a man-made hill here, and then we have a rainbow. Isn't that great? And this is when Heather Arnold and her daughter Spencer was out here. And we saw this rainbow showing her the glyphs. And I've always been fascinated with that hill. And it resembles so much of this pyramid in Mexico, the hill there. See what I'm saying? The evidence is all around. You just got to know what to look for. And I'm showing you right here that there is something there. That's not the only hill on the White Tank Mountains. There's other man-made hills, but they're not going to dig it up. They're not going to, excavate it, because they're going to find a pyramid, dude. They're going to find this pyramid right there. I guaranteed this pyramid is what's under that dirt on the White Tank Mountains. I'm staking my life on it. I bet you, I guarantee you. That is a man-made hill. It's covered up. Just like this one over here. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, so yes, there are pyramids on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona. And I think it's up to us to understand this and to understand what's really here. Because this is our history. This is where we come from. We need to know this. We can't be, sheltered all our life by the government. We need to know this is our history. And our history is some dark, demented, scary stuff, man. It's not all fine and gravy. It's biblical stuff. It's scary stuff. That is what's going on here in our world. And this is the stuff that has been covered up for so many years. And people just go on and think that everything is okay. Look at this. This is pretty cool. Look at this. Look at this here. Can anybody tell me what that is? Whoa, is that crazy? Isn't that neat? No, it's not a UFO. That is SpaceX. Isn't that cool? So there's a lot of man-made stuff out there that looks like UFOs, that might act like UFOs, but it's not. It's the government. It's the military. It's man-made projects. It's SpaceX. Okay? So get familiarized with the natural stuff before you start filming unnatural stuff. At least unnatural to us, anyway. I think I have one more thing to show you. This is really cool. What is this? Let's play this. Let's see what this is. Oh, yeah. This was filmed. I can't remember where this is filmed at now. Oh, my goodness. I forget. This show's been going on too long. My brain is mush. But look at this. Look at these pyramids here. And see, and the problem with this is, people see these pyramids, right? And it's a TR-3B, right? It's a spaceship, right? It's a cloaked, it's a craft, it's a triangle craft, right? No. Just because they're in a pyramid formation doesn't mean it's a pyramid shape, right? I mean pyramid shape, ship, craft. That's just the way they are. That's how they fly. They fly in pyramids. Isn't that neat? Look at that. Look what's going on there. Isn't that cool? I can't remember where this was filmed at, man. Isn't that neat? That is so cool. That's the kind of stuff that we want to look out for. I think that is it, folks. Oh my God, we got through it. We got through it. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and thank you all for writing in and watching and learning with me and understanding what's really here. And thank you guys so much. And make sure that you go off and get my books, okay? Because it's so important. I mean, it's the raw versions of these books. It's not edited; it's all raw. So there's a lot of stuff in there. So many pictures of petroglyphs and the meanings and interpretations, and documents that have been left in the Phoenix Library that no one has seen before, and so much stuff. And make sure you pick it up on Kindle, Amazon Kindle, the ebooks. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it a hard book yet because it might be too expensive for people. And it's not about money; it's about getting this information to you. That's why I've only marked it for $3. They wouldn't let me give it away. I had to make some kind of. They wanted me to put it in some kind of money, so I made it the cheapest I could. So this is $3. 20 years of research into this, lots of really fact-finding research, lots of skywatching. 20 years of my life, folks, is in this book, and there's a lot of information in there, and it'll really make you think once you see all the stuff that I discovered on South Mountain, and stuff that I can back up and can prove. That's in the Phoenix Library. That the park ranger. I mean, there's so much evidence. I mean, I'm not just making this stuff up. This stuff is real. It's there. It's always been there. And go out there and get your copy today. It's only $3. There's a hard book copy. That's what the editors did. They're out there to make money off me. They're making. I don't even see it in the money that they're making on this stuff right here. So this is the real stuff here. And so thank you guys so much for joining me. Pick up my book, Amazon Kindle. Search my name on Amazon, and you'll find me. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.